Hello, I'm Chuck Martin, and welcome to the Voices of the Internet of Things podcast. With me today is Harriet Green, General Manager of Watson IoT and Customer Engagement and Education at IBM. Harriet has held numerous leadership positions, including CEO of Thomas Cook Group, CEO of Premier Farnell, and Senior Vice President of Arrow Electronics. Most notably, Harriet is leading the charge with Watson, in many ways the poster child for artificial intelligence in the Internet of Things. Harriet joins me at the IBM Genius of Things event in Boston. Welcome, Harriet.
Oh, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and I'm very excited to read your new book, Mobile Influence. So thank you for the copy.
Well, thank you. So tell me, you spoke to the business leaders today, and these are people from all around North America?
Yeah. We had about 350 clients from multiple industries, and really we were talking about the inflection point that we've reached with the Internet of Things. We now believe that with the global IoT market sort of exploding at around $14.2 trillion US dollars by 2020, so many companies are looking to really capture the IoT opportunity. As you know, we've made a big bet on IoT, $3 billion, and then bringing AI capabilities to IoT, and this not only helping clients to make sense of the data through our cloud, through our applications, through the digital transformation and Watson, but to really create excellence in models that interface with enterprises and consumer with this total focus on digital transformation. And what we were trying to do this morning, and I'd love to get your view on whether it worked, was herald this new phase of the Internet of Things where, clients are really demonstrating their outcomes, delivering new business models, new products or services, deeper insights into the engagement with their customers. And one of those that I know you are keen to talk about is the Sears Home Services and the Golden State Foods examples, one of which was talked about on stage in detail by the president this morning.
Right. So where do you see the market now versus when you started this a while ago? People were like, IoT, what does that mean? Mm-hmm. And now it's becoming a sort of common, even though everyone doesn't know what to do with it. What are you seeing in terms of change in the marketplace for adoption and acceptance?
So I think we're first of all seeing this huge drive to connect the world's devices to, in our case, the IBM Cloud, the IoT platform. People understanding that if you connect things to things and things to people, the data flows and the opportunities are very real. Secondly, we're seeing the software applications to gather this data, to apply analytics to it, are becoming, deeper and richer. And it's very, very, interesting that the number of chief digital officers who report into CEOs who are really looking at new products and new services. What I talked to this morning with Schaeffler, it's not just about efficiency within their factory floor, it's new services. It's about kind of Kierkegaard and the self-determining ball bearing. And so I think we're seeing many, many more outcomes. And we're also seeing that clients are, as they, 80% of the world's data is not searchable. It exists within their businesses, and they want to make use of their data and their insights, their DNA, in a very secure and private way. And IBM, guarantees that we don't use that data, we don't aggregate that data, we don't use it to create a knowledge graph that is anything other than for themselves. And so this issue of data privacy, security is hugely important. And as you know, 50 years of IBM proving the safety of clients' data is hugely important.
Can you talk a little more about that? Because Watson it has a lot of data, obviously. It has weather data, for example. And I would think that it aggregated, I know you spoke about that this morning, aggregated, that would be an enormous power and value. So you keep it separate, essentially?
So first, I think the first unique differentiation is, and we launched these with our chairman at Davos this last year, the principles around how we think at IBM around artificial intelligence, that any involvement that we have with you and Watson, that you know exactly what we're using, what technology, what capabilities, that a company understands what cognitive means and what the augmented intelligence means in their scenario. Secondly, if any information that we already have, we bought the weather company, so those are insights of our own, we absolutely pull that to make the experience or the product or the service richer for the client. And if we do want to utilize any other data or client's data, we ask them expressly for the permission to do that. And if they agree, great. And if they don't, then we don't. We just think that the most precious thing that a client has is their information, is their data, is their unstructured noises and sounds and smells and everything else. And that belongs to them and should be treated with huge respect.
And do they get that up front, or do you basically tell them, hey, this is the way you need to look at data?
No, we as we start our engagements, if you look at the Internet of Things, we have a very experienced legal team that work with me that ensure that all of those elements in our contracts, the way we communicate with clients up front, that is explained, that is explicit. And as we train Watson in the particular areas of that client, that each step of the way, those learnings are explained and real.
Right. Can you talk a little bit? Everyone in the marketplace, it used to be when mobile became hot, every supplier was a mobile supplier, and now every supplier has AI, but it's not really AI. They're just saying it's AI.
Yeah, I think it's a great parallel. So, as you know, IBM has been working and investing in Watson for over 10 years. What was the date we did Jeopardy? What was the 2011? Sorry, I never get that date right. And so much has developed since Jeopardy. So the development of the APIs, which, as you know, anyone in the marketplace can use ubiquitously to develop capabilities, etc. And then as we work with clients, for example, when we taught Watson oncology. So first of all, Watson would be able to ingest everything that's ever been written around oncology, all of the necessary kind of information and graphics, etc. Then began to experience being on the wards with doctors. And I think the critical thing is, in none of IBM's work do we think about replacing human intelligence. We believe that Watson is working together with a doctor to help not just have the knowledge of one doctor, but in the video we played this morning, to have the knowledge of 100 or 1,000 doctors, and to augment that capability with the Watson intelligence, which keeps learning from what it's given. I think many, many jobs in the world will be changed by the advent of artificial intelligence. But I think this suggestion that there'll be mass displacement, we have not seen that in the other waves. And you're very right. There are many talking about artificial intelligence, as they were, as your book, I'm sure, tracks, about mobile. But I think that what IBM is proving in its engagements is this is a robust enterprise capability that really helps augment with data and facts. It's not about picking the most popular record from 1971. When you sit in front of a CEO and you're talking about improving efficiency, about creating new products and services, you better have really robust levels of data at a primary, secondary, and tertiary level.
So why would an organization, a Fortune 500 company, a major enterprise, not do a Watson kind of thing?
Oh, I think many are. I mean, this year, over 1 billion people will be touched by Watson. And as you know, we're a company that supports enterprises, so most of that will be through the enterprise, whether it's in health, whether it's in the Internet of Things, whether it's in our security business, in our analytics, the importance of analytics, and then, of course, this whole digital transformation. You know, I talked this morning about the unique digital differentiation that a company wants to have, and data is really at the core of that. So, you know, we have 6,000 active billing clients who are using the IoT platform in the IBM cloud, our applications, our digital transformation, and Watson. And so I think there are, you know, thousands of clients. And as you know, we have this industry and Internet of Things headquarters in Munich, where we've got the latest demonstrations. We work with clients from 30 different industries. We have 3 or 4 clients a day. And not just clients, governments. We've had the federal presidents of Germany, the prime ministers of Denmark, prime ministers of East European countries, of Asian countries, really trying to understand the social implications of the Internet of Things. How do they need to train people in schools? You know, IBM feels that the skills issue, how we equip people to have the skills to play a part in this cognitive era is so important. And so governments, research institutions are looking at this and working with companies to develop cognitive applications.
So when a business starts with Watson, is that the beginning of their learning?
I think clients start in many different places. You know, some start with, well, let's get connected to the cloud. We want to connect devices, and the IBM IoT platform has been considered a strong leader for the IoT space. And then I think many companies want to start using the applications to look at connected products, look at connected operations, be more efficient, be more effective. The amount of digital transformation, companies really saying, I have this data. How do I create new products and services from the data? What will be helpful for our clients, whether they're facilities management companies, building companies, airline companies? I think it starts with the data, and then because Watson is able to make sense of so much unstructured data, and the speed at which it's able to process and learn and reason, that this information is not wasted, that it can be used either in a cognitive cockpit sense or in, you know, a deeper sense of analytics, or as you know, we've talked about today, in the way in which a company like Sears Home Services can absolutely transform its relationship with its client.
In a company like Sears, if I understand this correctly, they're looking at really creating efficiencies. Is it really efficiency versus new revenue, or do you see a split? What are companies really looking for when they look at a Watson?
So I think there are steps and stages. So you're absolutely right. Sears Home Services is the #1 appliance service in the US, more than 7 million repairs. It's about 20,000 a day.
And I'm guessing many of those trips are twice.
Indeed, you're correct. And so not only, they, as you say, there are many inefficiencies within that process. So it's not just the efficiency of connecting the maintenance repair to exactly the right information at exactly the right place, etc. Sort of conducting a root cause analysis over the phone. But it's also about thinking about new models. With this much knowledge about what the consumer or the client wants and needs, what's working, what's not working, I think many of the appliance companies are thinking about different models. Maybe, the appliance itself is given away for free, and there is an as-a-service charge for every tumble or every wash or every whatever it is. And that would be, better for the planet in terms of, I think washing machines don't have to go wrong and get out of warranty, at the end of every 5 years. So it's not just efficiency. It's very, very interesting. For me, I see more and more clients, whether it's BMW, whether it's Sears, using that information that they gather from clients to get their views on the design, how they live and work with the product, what they would like to see about the product. And you begin to see this intimacy with the end consumers. It is not a coincidence that some of the biggest drivers, of 4.0, manufacturing 4.0, are in Germany. Some of the greatest manufacturers in the world really looking for a much greater intimacy, much greater input from consumers about not just what their car looks like, but what's in the dash with them, what's the sort of surround environment that connects them to the outside world. I talked this morning about our work with GM and on OnStar, and that's a sort of perfect example. So yes, it may start with Golden State Foods, that they want to take waste out of the supply chain, take fraud out of the supply chain, using blockchain and a much more secure environment. But then they begin to see with the data that they're gathering, new trends, new sense of what is happening. If one of the IoT and analytics clients, Boots, which is a very large pharmacy across Britain and Europe. And really, by connecting consumers in a much more efficient way in an omni-channel environment as they walk into the store, they begin to see trends about what makeup or what sort of cosmetics, are being thought about in the social context. The powerful thing, as because I think your next book is going to be about it, is this convergence between the enterprise and the consumer, enabled by connecting the world's devices and people together in the cloud.
Exactly. So in terms of consumers, where are consumers seeing IoT right now? What I see is that the enterprise, the efficiency, the ROI is instant for efficiency. So it seems like a logical way for a company to get in because they can see payback right away. And then once they're in, then they start to learn because they have data that they didn't really have this view of before. So when does the consumer see it, or do they?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think I give you a couple of examples. Ollie, which is the self-driving car that will take you from point A to point B, provides recommendations on restaurants you might like, reminds you, to get to your destination on a given time, now gives you weather conditions, etc., which is enabled by Watson. That is being expanded across school routes in many, many states as the school children will queue to be on the Ollie rather than a boring old bus that doesn't talk to them. Whirlpool, not dissimilar to Sears in getting closer. BMW, the auto giant, is working with IBM to inject Watson AI capabilities into its hybrid i8 sports cars, which are located, as you know, at our Watson headquarters in Munich. Jefferson Hospital, in Philadelphia, is launching cognitive hospital rooms, which enable patients to interact with in-room speakers and take control of their overall experience, lights, music, temperature, etc. And Kone.
That's my favorite.
It's mine too, actually. In managing the movement, of 1 million people a day and working with Watson IoT, we'll no longer have to dedicate staff on maintenance of elevators and can focus on improved services for using, in advance. So you come off that plane and you go through the terminal, and guess what? That elevator works perfectly. It hums to you in gentle music that soothes your soul. These wonderful smells come out of the elevator, all without interruption. And it's amazing how that affects your life.
Well, plus consumers can go to Coney.com and actually listen to the elevator talk to the cloud.
That's right.
Which is fascinating.
I agree. It's just amazing. In fact, the other week I was in an Indian airport. There were sadly some bad floods, and the elevator stopped. And because I'm so in love with what Coney are doing, so I thought, well, I might as well try seeing if I can talk to the elevator, and it will talk back. It was not enabled, and it wasn't Coney. So it changes my behavior.
Yes.
You know what's possible, and it's exciting and moving.
So do consumers care, or is it basically the companies that care and they're saying, okay, I get the Internet of Things, I see the power, and the consumer just kind of rolls along and basically simply gets a benefit?
No, I think, most consumers, not all, but most consumers also have interaction with enterprises. And, by creating some of these amazing new products and services, totally on the cloud, using our applications, thinking about digital transformation, using Watson, you can see this convergence, which is very powerful. So I don't think there's what I see happening here is a real convergence in behaviors from what consumers see in enterprises and know is possible, and what enterprises can deliver to various consumers. I think it's very exciting.
So a few years out, where do you see things like smart home, autonomous cars, which are controversial and not controversial, depending on who you talk to?
Oh, I think the exponential, for the sort of economic cost, 14.2 trillion of new, IoT market. That isn't all efficiencies. A very large part of that is new products and services that quantifiably do things smarter, better, a richer experience, a new experience. These are, as you rightly say and write about it, very, very exciting times. And our view on augmenting with the Watson capability through IoT, through other businesses that we have, 6,000 clients, already developing amazing IoT solutions, as you just heard on stage this morning.
Final thoughts?
Oh, final thoughts. I think it's very important that we all stay focused, on what really adds value, quantifiable benefit to our enterprises, and get started. Most enterprises, most clients have data, and how do you want to make better use of that data to benefit your own clients? I think these are very, very exciting times. And thank you for all that you do to write about it objectively, books that, help move people's thinkings forward, and your IoT Daily News, which is very, very fine. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Harriet Green, and thank you all for listening to the Voices of the Internet of Things.